Cody, Chance, Scott, and the organizations that I was in was the United States Marine Corps, and then after that, the Colorado National Guard. Originally, I'm from San Angelo, Texas, a little West Texas town out in the middle of nowhere. All right, so the Marine Corps was about 9.5 years, almost 10 years. And then I got out of the Marine Corps, was a civilian, not associated with the military for a couple years, and then ended up going into the Colorado Army National Guard out of Buckley. After September 11th happened, I was in college. I was a freshman in college, and of course that's obviously a very traumatic experience for all Americans. And my roommate at the time was a former Marine. He had gotten out, was going to school with me. Of course, September 11th happened. He immediately was like, I'm going back in. Of course, hanging out with him and getting to know how Marines work and operate, I was kind of attracted to it that way. So I ended up joining the Marine Corps program with my roommate, my buddy, and that's just kind of how I got into the Marine Corps. Didn't really even look at other branches. I knew that I wanted to do something in the military because of what had happened to the United States. So I just kind of followed my buddies and went in the Marine Corps. Pensacola, Florida, and that's where I started flight school. And then from Pensacola, Florida to Corpus Christi, Texas. Corpus Christi, Texas, back to Pensacola. And then from Pensacola to New River, North Carolina. From New River, North Carolina to Hawaii. And that's where my operational unit was. So all that before was training. And now I'm getting into my operational squadron, which was HMH 463. Flew CH-53 heavy lift helicopters. So I did both of my combat tours out of Hawaii. And then once I was done with that, I moved back to Pensacola, Florida. Became an instructor pilot and teaching new pilots how to fly. And then that's where I got out of the Marine Corps. The hardest part is the lifestyle of the Marines, right? It's very fast-paced, high operational tempo, and just keeping up with all the requirements that you have to do, all the schooling that you have to learn, all the procedures. So it's very fast-paced, and it's pretty unforgiving, right? So you either succeed or you don't, and then they roll you out of there, right? They don't have time to mess with, people that are falling behind and whatnot. So keeping up the pace, that was hard. I would say getting shot at for the first time is pretty memorable and exciting and scary at the same time. You know, like, oh man, those are real guns. Those are real bullets. So yeah, I would say that's very memorable. And the second time, and the third time. But but you know, you rely on the training and the tactics that you learned, and avoid those situations. I was in Pensacola, Florida. I just finished my time as a flight instructor, and I remember my last flight. You know, for your last flight, they kind of make a big deal out of it, and so come in from a flight with a student, land, and of course they, instead of taxiing to a parking spot, they taxi you right in front of where the squadron building is, and you shut down the engine, and then all the pilots basically grab you out of the cockpit and then throw you in a big bucket of water, and then, you know, have a celebration as a job well done. So I remember my last flight for sure. And then my last day, it's pretty hard to forget because they make you do a lot of classes about getting out and how the civilian world's going to operate and all that. So yeah, I remember that too. But especially the last flight. It was pretty easy. You slow down a little bit. You just take those things that you learned in the Marine Corps or whatever service you're in. You apply those to your daily life like you do in the military. You do it to the civilian world. And you just kind of have to understand that the civilian world doesn't operate at the same pace that you're used to. And I'd say that's the hardest adjustment is expectations of what I expect is not the same as what, you know, somebody that hasn't served has. So you just kind of have to realize that, slow down a little bit, and try not to get too frustrated. And then eventually over time, you kind of adjust back to the pace of it. So it was fine for me. How did the military service experience affect my life? Well, it really taught me discipline, structure, organization. Pretty basic stuff you need for life, but it really honed it in. And also the ability to handle stressful situations in a calm and effectful way of doing things, So, yeah, it kind of just shaped the way that I operate in the rest of my life. The military is a great career path for a lot of people. It may not be for everybody, but it is a great career choice. You learn a lot of very important life skills that the military teaches you that you can apply in your everyday life.